everybody, and welcome to another episode of How You Like Me Now. I'm Jonathan Randall. Hope everybody's having a great summer. Things are going well. I'm excited. Next week is the first Save the Garden comedy show at the Elizabeth Street Garden, June 29th, 8 p.m. We're going to have a fantastic show raising awareness about the Elizabeth Street Garden that the city is trying to destroy. I got a packed lineup I'll be hosting. I got Ashley Austin Morris. I got Daniel Torado. I got the one and only Dante Nero on the show. It's going to be fantastic. Hope everybody will come out and check it out. We're going to do 3 shows this summer. The last Thursday of June, July, and August. The first one is next week, June 29th, 8 p.m. at the Elizabeth Street Garden. Hope to see everybody there. I was supposed to do a big interview with the director of the film Boycott next week for the American Jew podcast. She just canceled, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll be able to reschedule that sometime in September. I am looking for guests to have on that podcast. So if anybody out there has any suggestions, please slide into my DMs and let me know. If you're not following me on social media, please do at Jonathan Randall. And of course, I would love your support from my Ko-fi page, please. I'll put the link to that in the description. I know usually I release the podcast on Wednesdays. I'm mixing it up now because of the studio. I'm going to be releasing this week on Friday, and moving forward, it'll probably go closer to Friday than Wednesday. I'm trying to work with the studio and get this podcast out and create content and express my views and my opinions and do the things I love to do. I would love to make some money doing this, which right now I'm not, so that's another reason why you should support my Ko-fi page. Anyways, let's talk about this week. Let's get started. This week, first of all, was Father's Day, and it was also Juneteenth. I don't really celebrate much of Father's Day. I'm not close with my father. My father is not really a great guy. I did not call him on Father's Day. I feel no guilt about that whatsoever. He was horrible to me growing up. He was not good to my mother, and he's just not a good guy. So anyways, Father's Day was a bust. Juneteenth isn't really, I guess, for white people. I think it's more of a holiday, for black people, but I think white people should know about it. I think everybody should know about it. For those of you that don't know, Juneteenth is commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. So the Emancipation Proclamation happened in 1863, and that's when slaves in the Confederate States were declared to be free. But it wasn't until June 19th, 1865, that slaves in Texas became free, which is where the name Juneteenth comes from, and it marks our country's second Independence Day. It became a federal holiday in 2021 when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, making it the first new federal holiday since Martin Luther King Day was adopted in 1983, which isn't bad for such a racist country, which America definitely is, but at least we're trying. I mean, it might be a little bit, but hey, that's pretty good that the last 2 federal holidays were to commemorate, the African American movement and to recognize what they went through with slavery, and of course to honor MLK. Anyways, I hope everybody had a good Juneteenth. I think it's great that it's a federal holiday now. I think it's crazy that, slavery was a thing for so long all over the world, and definitely how, the roots of America and how it was pretty much built on slavery. So I definitely think it's important to have a day to commemorate what African Americans have gone through in this country and how it should be recognized that people having freedom is important and it matters, and that slavery is bad, and that what an ugly part of history. And it's so unfortunate that was, had such an important part in the beginning of, this country, America, that despite all its many, many, many flaws, it still is a pretty great country. All right, let's move on. More things to talk about. There's a submarine, apparently, where these people paid $250,000 to go in the submarine to view, wreckage of the Titanic. And then, something happened, and, they couldn't find the submarine. And then, they were hearing banging. That was what they had to resort to, banging, I guess. And then they picked up the banging on sonar. Now they're still trying to save these people. They're running out of air in the thing. I mean, in the submarine. I think we know what it is. is, it's time for James Cameron to send in the avatars to help rescue them. But no, I'm pretty sure James Cameron's definitely going to make a movie about this. Somebody definitely will. First when I heard $250,000 to go in a submarine to view the Titanic wreckage, I was like, this is not worth it. But now that I've heard it's like a near-death experience that's going to get news coverage 24/7, and the whole world is going to be watching, and it's going to be this exciting ordeal that is going to probably have a movie made after, $250,000 sounds like a good price. So the last I heard, they haven't been rescued yet. Of course, I hope they do get rescued, but it's just crazy the attention that these very rich people get going on this like excursion in the submarine, when then there are like refugees that like are on boats that like drown or have problems, and like it seems like nobody really cares. But when it's rich people visiting Titanic, it's like the world can't get enough. But when it's like poor people from like refugees from other countries trying to escape the horrible lives and go to a better life, people are like, yeah, whatever, no big deal, which is just crazy that that's the world that we live in. The Flash. I saw the movie The Flash. I'm a big DC fan. I'm a huge comic book guy. Love comic books. Like The Flash. Love DC growing up. Was a huge fan of the Justice League of America. The Flash movie's horrible. It sucks. It's not good at all. I can think of maybe one funny part, one decent part maybe. The movie was just so bad, and it's very unfortunate. Like, DC is changing the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe is going to be no more. It's becoming just the DCU that James Gunn is like creating. They're going to reboot the whole thing. So I guess The Flash is supposed to be like a reset, but it is so hard to care about this movie. Seems like even DC doesn't care about the movie. Warner Brothers didn't even care about the movie. And they're just like, oh, we made it, but now we're changing everything. We're just going to put it out or whatever. But I feel like this is a problem with DC that they do a lot in the comic books. I remember they did it with the New 52. They've done it with some other times where, they build this like rich history. They create this universe. They have this thing that people care about. And then they want to like redo it. And people are like, yeah, but we just invested all this time and this energy into this universe, and now you just want to be like, oh, well, now it's a whole new universe and forget about that one. And that's kind of like a smack in the face to people that are like fans, and I feel like that's a problem right now with The Flash and with the new DCU coming, and that's why, all these last couple DCU movies are doing so bad. It's because, they're saying like, oh, we created this universe, the DCU, the Snyderverse, whatever you want to call it, with these characters. Now we're just like, who cares about that? We're going to create a new one, and we hope it's going to be better, and we hope people are going to like it more, and we hope it's going to be more popular like Marvel or whatever. But if you like the other ones and you were into it, too bad, screw you, we don't care, out with the old, in with the new. And it's kind of like an insult to fans. And I feel like now there's another Aquaman movie coming out, and like no one's going to see that movie. It's going to flop too. And it's because you guys got to realize that like we're investing our time and our energy into these universes, into these films, and for you guys to just be like, oh, forget it, we don't want to do this anymore, we're moving on, now it's James Gunn's turn. It's like a fuck you to all our faces. And it's like, at some point, it's like, why are we going to care anymore? I mean, of course, James Gunn is a brilliant director, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job with the new universe. But then at what point, if those movies aren't successful, or some more old tweets come out of James Gunn that now, DC wants to get rid of him, are you guys gonna be like, oh no, forget this universe, we're making a new universe? And it's just like, there could have been such a better way to do The Flash. They didn't have to just like get rid of that other universe like totally. They could have kept some of it like alive and just showed a little bit more respect to like all those filmmakers and to the fans that like it. Anyways, The Flash fucking sucks. I wish I could go back in time and never see that movie. So it's been like a little while since I recorded an episode, because usually I record in the beginning of the week. This week I'm recording at the end of the week. Last week there was an issue on a Ryanair flight from Italy to Tel Aviv when I guess the stewardess said like, we'll soon be landing, not in Israel, but they said we'll soon be landing in Palestine. Yes, shortly we'll reach our destination in Palestine. And you could imagine the people on this flight were not too happy. They were pissed. They were like, you better say the right thing. They were like yelling at the stewardess, and she was just like, no, she refused to. They apparently were making threats. They had to have like the police come when the flight finally landed in Israel, because like this stewardess was like afraid for her safety. Ryanair then issued an apology, said it was a simple mistake, and they didn't like mean to do that. but it was like an Irish stewardess, I think, and they do really care about the plight of the Palestinian people. Who knows if she did it on purpose or not? I definitely don't think like she should lose her job or anything. But I guess it pissed off Israel so much that they went and they raided the Jenin refugee camp right away. No, I'm just joking. They don't need a reason to raid the Jenin refugee camp. And they did in the beginning of the week. For 11 hours. I guess it was a pretty big raid, and it was the first time in 20 years that they used attack helicopters. So at the end of this raid, at least 6 Palestinians were killed or died because of it, and like over 90 were injured. So that raid happened. It's very upset. A lot of people were upset, not only Palestinians, but, countries all over the Middle East. Many people speaking out against, this raid. And these raids are happening all the time, and civilians get killed in these raids. One of the people that did get killed was a 15-year-old. And of course, so many people get injured. It's horrible that these raids keep happening. I mean, this is a way of life for the Palestinian people living in the West Bank. Any second, Israel could come and raid their houses for whatever reason they pick. They don't know if they're going to live. They don't know if their family's going to live. They don't know if their neighbors are going to live. They don't know who's going to die any day. It's very horrible. On top of that, Israel announced that they were going to move forward with building like 4,000 settlements in the West Bank. The U.S. was against it. So many people like, this is in the way of peace. Like, what are you doing? Why are you building these more settlements? You gotta not build settlements. You gotta leave some of these settlements that you already have. Now, make advancements to build more. And then even worse is they want to put Bezalel Smotrich in charge of planning these settlements. And if you don't know, Smotrich heads like a far-right religious ultra-nationalist bloc that always says racist things and is totally anti-Palestinian policies. So I don't know why they're putting him in charge. This is not good for the Palestinian people. It's not good for Israel. It's not good for stopping settler expansion. But I guess they think, hey, we need a guy to help continue ethnically cleanse Palestine. This racist Bezalel Smotrich is the right guy. So all this is happening. They say they're going to move forward with letting bigot Bezalel, be in charge of creating more settlements in the West Bank, 4,000. Then they raid the Jenin refugee camp. They kill a bunch of people. They have attack helicopters. This is where people live, and attack helicopters are for the first time in 20 years. And then the response to that is there's a shooting in the West Bank outside of an illegal settlement, the Eli settlement, which is an illegal settlement according to international law. But there was a shooting, unfortunately, and 4 Israelis were killed and 4 Israelis were injured. I am against this violence, of course, but you gotta ask yourself, if this Eli settlement, this illegal settlement wasn't there and didn't exist, would these people have died? Maybe there's gonna be a reaction to raids that are killing 15-year-olds, that are having attack helicopters and refugee camps and flying over people's homes, people living in like a war zone, giving them the feeling that that's like what their home, that's what their life. A helicopter's gonna come over our head and shoot us. Who knows what's gonna happen? So the response was that, these 2 20-something-year-old, people want to call them terrorists, want to call them resistance fighters, whatever you want to call them, they're killers. I don't approve of what they did. I think it's horrible. But again, this is a reaction. Maybe if Israel didn't have this illegal settlement, Eli, maybe if they didn't do this raid, the previous day where they're killing Palestinians, that this murder wouldn't have happened and these Israelis wouldn't have died. But after it happens, they announce right away that they're going to build another 1,000 homes in the Eli settlement, which they're like, I don't know. It seems like they're just provoking Palestinians more to do another attack. And then, settlers all through the West Bank went and again created pogroms pretty much, where they went and they were burning through the villages. They were burning homes and cars and businesses and breaking glass. I believe one person got killed, a Palestinian got killed in their rampaging through the West Bank villages and just destroying everything under the protection of the Israeli military. So isn't that crazy that Israeli settlers could go and run through town and just burn it, set it on fire, kill people, and they do so under the protection of the Israeli military. But then two Palestinians respond to, moves of settlers, of having, settler expansion, and to a raid that murdered their people, and, they're the ones that are labeled terrorists right away. And that's what doesn't match up. That's what's not right with this situation. That's a problem with just calling it a conflict, saying the cycles of violence. It's do you understand? One people are gasping for air and trying to do whatever they think they can to make a difference in their lives and fight this oppressive force that they have been fighting against for over 75 years. So I'm against all these murders. Any murders are bad. Killing people are wrong, okay? Don't do it. But you got to understand the differences between the two, and not just consider them equals, and not just want to make the Palestinians terrorists and the Israelis the victims. Well, when you really look at the situation, that's not what's happening, and that's not what's going on. So another thing I wanted to talk about was Abbas. He went to China. I talked about this on the last podcast. So he went to China, and when he left, this is what he said when it came to the Uyghurs. He goes, and I quote, nothing to do with human rights, and are aimed at excising extremism and opposing terrorism and separatism. That's what he said about the Uyghurs, Muslim ethnic minorities, a bunch of groups. 1 million Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and other Muslim minorities are in a prison-like detention centers in China on little or no legal ground. And typically, if they just download the Quran on their phone, they will be sent to these detention camps. They're gross human rights violations. The whole world knows it. And the fact that Abbas is sticking up for China is sickening. I mean, this is what he said about what's happening to the Uyghurs is what Israel says about why it commits its crimes against the Palestinian people. And neither are acceptable. I'm so troubled by Abbas's words. I'm Palestinians need a better leader. Of course, when you have such a corrupt, horrible, nasty leader like that, what, how do you expect to prosper in life? Of course, your quality of life is so bad, And I'm it's not only Israel. When you have horrible leadership, that's a problem too. But then I was reminded by some people that Israel most likely put Abbas in power in the first place, that if Abbas, Israel will take him out if he does what, they don't want him to do. And, I even heard some people suggested that this whole thing was just a strategy, a strategic move by Israel to discredit Palestinians by aligning them with China and by, saying it's okay for the way the treatment of the Uyghurs is. And I guess they're going to use the same thing to say, yeah, it's okay. That's why we do it to the Palestinian people. Anyways, Abbas is sickening. He needs to go. A great Palestinian leader needs to rise. I mean, maybe he already has, and he's in administrative detention. Israel put him in. Who knows? Or maybe Israel will just kill them and not let that happen because they want to keep Abbas, because they want to keep Palestinian leadership bad, because they want to keep Palestine under their heel, and they want to keep oppressing the Palestinian people. They want to keep expanding, and they're not going to be happy until they totally ethnically cleanse Palestinians from the land, or they murder them all, which is horrible. It's a horrible reflection on Israel. It's a horrible reflection on Judaism. It's a horrible reflection on humankind. And it really sucks. I'm going to continue to call them out. I hope Palestinian people will call out bad leadership on their side. And I hope we can find a way to come together to, have a better future, to make a better world. And it can't just be this black and white issue where it's they got to go, or we got to go, or they got to die, No one has to die. No one has to, all leave. Like, what we have to do is get along. Like, we're basically the same people. We love the same area of land. We have so much in common. We both won't eat pork. You know, we both, if we go according to like the Bible, we're both basically like children of Abraham. I know he was like a horrible father figure. I mean, he seems a little unhinged. First, he's chopping off a piece of his dick. Then he's getting ready to sacrifice his son. Ugh. Anyways, if you're not following me on social media, please do. At Jonathan Randall across social media. Show some love to my Ko-fi page. The link is in the description. Next week, Thursday, June 29th, Save the Garden comedy show at the Elizabeth Street Garden. Hope I'll see some of my fans there. It's going to be an amazing show. I'm Jonathan Randall. How you like me now?